The Librarians, Season 2, Episode 5, and the Hollow Men. You know, I was looking for this episode to cheer me up today, because yesterday I had my last ever performance with my high school theater troupe, and, really hurt. Still going through the pain of that. If you guys remember last week, I said I didn't do an episode because I had to save my voice for that musical. That went well, by the way. But then this episode, I was like, Flynn's in it. I remember talking to my friend in the car on the way home from the show last night, being all sad. And she's like, no, look, Flynn's on the Librarians tomorrow. You can be happy. And that was what was making me happy. That's what stopped me from crying. Because I was crying in the car on the way to dinner after the show. And thinking about even Flynn got me to stop crying before I went to dinner. And then this. I mean, this was such an emotional episode, but it was so good too. I have to watch it again because I feel like I lost a lot of it. So the episode starts, and the episode started kind of abruptly, like you didn't know what was going on, but it all started to make sense. I think that was a little bit too abrupt for my liking, but then, we see Eve finds Flynn, and he's like, I missed you, but he said she was his favorite person, and he started talking about her eyes. And aside from all the emotional stuff in this episode, let's just talk about how much Flynn loves Eve, because it's so evident time and time again. And that's why I'm in so much pain, honestly. So they are separated for most of this episode because Flynn gets kidnapped, and immediately we see Eve is really worried. She's like calling him, and he's trying to tap it out in Morse code, which was so clever. I didn't even know where to begin with this episode. The library is a person. I loved Ray so much. He was so cute. This really made me think of the episode of Doctor Who where the TARDIS was a person, which was also an emotional episode. So whenever the entity, the home of the protagonist, becomes impersonated, personified, I don't know. It just becomes the most emotional thing. But that's not even the emotions I'm talking about right now. So Flynn is so excited to meet the library, and at the same time we've got the library dying. This episode was just so much tension. I can't even, there's not much to talk about here, honestly, but I mean, there was just so much tension. And my heart was, racing the entire time, thinking, is the library gonna die? Are they gonna make it out? And then you have Eve has to team up with Moriarty, which I was like, what I did miss in this episode was, while I was happy to see a Flynn-centric, because I really do love Flynn, I did miss seeing the Lits, because it just felt weird not having them involved at all, really. All we ever saw them was putting up the ghost lights. We didn't see that much of them. Except for Jake, when they first got to the box, Jake was being so adorable, trying to defeat the villains. So we have Moriarty is still trying to flirt with Eve. But the big relief here, among everything that's going on, at the very least, Eve is still not being receptive of that. And it's really worrying me that she might be, but I mean, she doesn't seem to be. When he was flirting with her, she flat out told him, I'm seeing someone. So at least we know, in Eve's mind, it's not like she thinks they're broken up or anything. She still very much considers him her boyfriend. It's just, these two idiots, they're so in love, and I just need them to realize it. Flynn has realized it. I need them to admit it. I need them to get over themselves and just realize that they need to stay together. So obviously you know what I'm talking about if you're here watching this because you saw the episode. We see that, that was the most painful Evelyn moment. It was already emotional because Ray called Flynn his best friend. The library called Flynn his best friend. And Judson was his true father. I haven't even seen the movies, and that's gonna make me cry. Honestly. So then we see Eve, and I'm like, finally. And I was getting concerned, because I'm like, there's only a minute left. What if they don't make up? But when they got back to the library, she was smiling. So I'm like, okay, wanted them to make up in this episode. That's all that I wanted from this episode. I didn't even care if he brought out the I love you. That can be in the season finale. Fine. But I wanted them to make up. I wanted them to talk about what happened. And they just made it worse. because Flynn's like, I have to go after Prospero, and once again, Eve was like, stay here, we can go after Prospero together, we can look for the artifacts together, just like last time, and he's like, no, I gotta go, and you gotta stay here. Flynn, Flynn, you're so concerned about your girlfriend possibly being with Moriarty, and then you keep doing things like this. Darling, sweetie, child, stop it. I think, Flynn is not the only one at fault here. The problem with these two is that they both act on impulse. And we see it, and every time they fight, we see them in the season. We see them, whenever they do act on impulse, immediately regretting it. But because the other one acts on impulse, it's already too late. Eve always regrets it. We see Eve, with the most painful eyes I've ever seen, looks at him and says, no kiss this time. I felt a physical ache in my chest when she said that, looking at he looked so upset, and she was crying, and I don't really know how to interpret that line. Clearly there was anger behind it. It's not even anger anymore. She's just hurt. She's just hurt because he doesn't want to stay with her, and I think he's upset because he thinks that because she keeps saying like stuff like no kiss, and because she's acting hurt, he thinks she's angry, and he thinks that he just doesn't have any people skills, and neither does she, but in totally different ways. And so as soon as she acts a little bit mad, he's just like, okay, she's mad at me, I'm gonna go. Because maybe he just doesn't feel like, he doesn't understand that they can talk about it. He doesn't know how to talk about things. So when she says to him, go, no kiss this time, he's not gonna say, no, we need to talk about it, because that's not Flynn. And Eve would want him to do that. But the problem with Eve is that Eve would want him to do that, but she's unwilling to do it herself because she's stubborn. Flynn does not understand. Flynn acts on impulse, and Eve is stubborn. And you can see that they're both so hurt by what's going on, and you can see the love in their eyes while they're still so hurt. I'm just emotionally compromised. And the most painful part of all of this was that after Eve said no kiss this time, she turns around, walks away, right? She turns back, because that's what I mean, she acts on impulse and then regrets it. She turns back, obviously, to like say to him, wait a minute, and he's already gone. Because he acts on impulse too. These two need to get it out of their thick heads, get all these things, get it into your thick head that you love each other and you just need to be with each other. You need to talk things out. I wanted Eve to come and hold his hand when he was losing Ray. He was so upset. I want them to be okay. Because honestly, with the couples I like in this show, I've already got enough pain with Jake and Cassandra. I don't need Eve and Flynn, the couple that's actually established, to be fighting and causing me pain. And now the next time we're going to see Flynn is episode 9, but then he'll be in episode 10 too. So we have 3 episodes for things to go wrong with Moriarty. Okay. Well, And the 9th episode is the Happily Ever Afters episode. So that's pretty much it for me. I just did it quick this week because it is kind of late and I got stuff to do. But you guys, it was so emotional, and I don't know why my thoughts about this episode aren't coherent. Like, I can't even, like, it kind of seems like a jumble in my head. Maybe not. The television overlords. That's what I've been saying. They're upsetting me. I asked how Evelyn feels this week. I didn't ask for that kind. So that's it. Next week looks like the Dorian Gray episode. I think it's either the Dorian Gray episode or the one where she has to save their souls. I don't know. One of the two. Probably, since they're mentioning deal with the devil, it's a souls thing. And that could get really emotional. We've got even her lits. So, bye-bye, Lids. See you next week.